Hi folks, Stein North. Well, here we go. Next topic under the Live or Die Off the Land video series. This topic is I'm going to probably call it, Am I Prepared? And what this topic has to do with is my preparedness to live off the raw land. There's a lot that goes beyond just our knowledge of foodstuffs. How will I feed myself out there off the land? Now, a lot of people put total effort into foodstuffs and very little effort whatsoever into other areas. I can't emphasize enough that the whole idea of being a hunter-gatherer and living off the land requires full diversity. You have to be so diverse. You're covering so many things every day that there's so many activities and so many things that have to stay at the front of your mind all the time, that for people to say, oh, well, if I learn everything I can eat out there, I'll do fine. No. I've had people say, well, if I can learn how to build an adequate shelter and have fire and clean water, I'm not too worried about the food because it's out there everywhere. No, that's not true. You have to be fully diverse. You have to be able to know a lot of skill bases. You have to have a lot of mental conditioning and be able to adjust and move and sway and be flexible every single day so that you can guarantee that you're going to meet every one of your needs to actually live off the land. So I'm going to jump into some of these issues. Okay, first question is, where? Where are you going to live off the land? Okay, now I just did a video prior to this one. I'm sure it will be posted before this one, on am I even allowed to live off the land here? And at the end of the day, it came down to actually, no, you're not allowed to. Society's not going to allow you to. But let's, in mind, create a scenario that, yes, I can live off the land. I don't have to worry about game wardens coming after me or federal forest rangers coming after me. And so I can go out there. I've got all this territory. I can go out there and live off the raw land as a hunter-gatherer. With the knowledge that I can. Now comes the question, where? Where am I going to live off the land? Now, a lot of people say, I've had a lot of people say, oh, well, people that live off the raw land as hunter-gatherers are nomadic. Yes and no. Historically, it's been yes and no. Native American tribes are a good example. Eastern woodland tribes. It's a misnomer when people say, well, they were nomadic. They traveled all around the Great Lakes area and up and down the East Coast, and they moved all over. That's a misnomer, because they were not nomadic. They had stationary, permanent communities. Where the nomadic side comes up, and a lot of historians mistake that as being a nomadic culture is that portions of their tribes would travel long distances to trade and or to harvest something that did not appear naturally in the area they lived. That does not make them nomadic. It just makes them willing to travel to trade or to harvest and gather things they cannot get where they live. Excuse me. Others have said, well, they were nomadic because they moved from the east into the west. No, they were pushed to the west. They didn't. That wasn't their culture to be moving on all the time. They were pushed. Prior to that push, the only time tribes would move, in the eastern woodland tribes, the only time they would relocate was typically because another tribe had pushed them out of a region, out of an area, so they'd move and re-inhabit a new area. So they were not nomadic. They were not. Now, our Western Plains tribes were very nomadic, and they followed the buffalo, and they followed the seasons. They knew where to be at the right time of year to harvest certain things. They knew where to be at the right time of year to be able to hunt and procure buffalo, which was a huge mainstay for the Plains natives. So they were nomadic, and they did live off the land as hunters and gatherers. So you can be nomadic or not be nomadic. But here's a key to keep in mind. Even the nomadic tribes, they had winter camping grounds. They would set their villages up in a protective area for the winter. They'd pick a place that had good water access, that was protected from the weather as well as you can be, and they would establish their village there for the entire winter. That's the key. Now you have those that created villages for year-round. You had those that moved about, but they would set up a village for the entire winter. And all of the foodstuffs they gathered and hunted were so that they could make it through the winter. Okay, so where would you do this? Well, I would say you're going to pick an area. You would try to find an area that seems to be abundant in game, abundant in wild edibles, very abundant in water. I would highly recommend you would look at an area that was abundant in lakes or rivers that hold a good fish population, because that can be a huge food source for you. So the where is, it's wherever you would choose that best meets your food needs, your shelter needs, and your water needs. Okay? Now, the next issue of being prepared to live off the land would be the consideration of your health. Now, we're all dreamers. We all dream of, oh, I would love to do this, or someday I'm going to do this. And that's good. We should all have hopes and dreams, and we should all work towards those and have goals. But this is real serious stuff. If you're going to go out there and be a hunter-gatherer year-round in extreme conditions, your health has to be top-notch. You cannot go out there without a ton, and I mean a ton, of experience with questionable health. Myself, I don't know anymore how well I would fare on a full primitive lifestyle as a hunter-gatherer in a semi-permanent shelter. The rigors and the energy demands of living off the raw land 24/7 in extreme weather conditions, especially through the winter. Um, with my health concerns, I do not, and at my age, I do not know for certain that I would be able to. Um, so would I intentionally attempt it? No, no. If I had no alternative, I would jump into it enthusiastically. I love the outdoors. You all know that. I just love the outdoors. So yeah, it might be the death of me, but I jump into it enthusiastically. But if you're intentionally planning on living off the land and you're actually going to go do it, then you had better do a very, very honest self-assessment of your health. And if your health falls short, improve it. Improve on your health so that you are healthy enough to endure that lifestyle. Um, the next item is your skill sets. Bushcrafting goes right back to bushcrafting. To me, bushcrafting in general provides you all the skill sets that you would need. Um, you need to have, in all areas, multiple abilities. Fire starting. You need to know how to start fire in several different ways. And you should have at least 2 primitive methods of starting a fire mastered before you think you're going to go out there and live strictly off the land. Shelter construction. You need to have a good understanding of how to build a semi-permanent shelter with in mind the fact that that shelter is going to have to endure the harshest weather your region, your area can put out. And not only endure it, but to hold you safely during those conditions, okay? Tool making, bushcrafting. How do we manipulate natural materials into needed tools? You have to have those skills. You're going to be doing a lot of things that require that bushcrafting skill set. You're going to need to be able to build smokers to process meats. You're going to need to build dehydration racks to dry berries and other wild edibles. You're going to, of course, need tools for around your camp. You're going to be able to, you're going to need to be able to build tools such as fish traps, snares, deadfalls. You need to know how to build things, all right? You need that skill set. And you need all of this before you jump out there, because you don't have time to learn it. If you're going to live off the raw land as a hunter-gatherer and you're jumping into it, you have to have those skill sets first, because you're not going to make it going out there without the knowledge and thinking you're going to learn it as you go. That isn't going to do it. That's just not going to do it. You need to have a good understanding and a practiced, and these need to be practiced skill sets. You need to know how to make and set traps and snares and how to make them successful. You need to know how to fish. What are the principles of fishing? And go out there and practice it and know that I can catch those fish. I know I can. I've seen people, townies, God bless them, they didn't know what they were doing. They went to Walmart and bought themselves a little kiddie fishing kit with a fishing pole and some hooks and flies in it, and go to the lake, and they fish all day, all weekend, and never caught a single fish. But just 50 feet away from them, there's an old man sitting on a 5-gallon bucket, and every morning by 10 o'clock that 5-gallon bucket's full of fish. It's because that old boy learned how to fish, knew what it took to fish, and he didn't just go out there and learn it accidentally. He learned it from others. So yes, you need to learn how to fish. You need to learn how to hunt. Not just, you may have a firearm with you. You may have a bow. You might have some kind of device for hunting, but you may not. Now it goes back to bushcrafting. Can you craft a spear? Can you craft a trap or snare that you can get larger game? You need those skills. You need to learn how to hunt, and not just having the right tools, being able to make tools for that purpose, but the actual act of hunting. You need to learn that before you get thrown into that situation, because that's another thing. If you're hoping that, oh, a deer's going to just walk through my camp, I can eat that. It's not going to happen. It's not impossible, but it is so improbable, you will probably starve to death if you go out with that kind of frame of mind. And navigation. You need to know basic navigation so that you can move around, because when you're hunting and gathering, you are traveling away from your camp quite a ways. You will have a large hunting and gathering territory that you will be working to sustain yourself. So you need to have good enough basic navigation skills to always get you back home to your camp. Okay, the next item is your initial tools. What initial tools do you need to go out in the woods with? Now it's going to be your preference, your choice, but you will want to consider the fact you want to make it as easy on yourself as possible. And what I tell people is your initial tools that you need to go out and live off of that land as a hunter-gatherer is the 3 times, you need 3 times 5 C's. So you take your 5 C's and multiply it by 3. You want 3 of each of those items. That's the minimum initial tool set you want to take with you, okay? And I would argue that you're going to want to take a firearm with a moderate amount of ammunition, or some other form of hunting device, such as a bow. A bow is very recommended, or a crossbow, or a slingshot. Slingshot is an awesome tool for small game, but I would throw 1 or more of those items on my initial tool list. So, okay, the last thing about being prepared in going into that situation is your mindset. You need to have, and there is nobody else to save me mindset. You have to have a mindset that it is all about me. Everything I do needs to be beneficial to me. In order for me to live off of nature, I have got to always remember about myself. I have to collect enough food to survive year round. For me, I have to have a shelter that is adequate and actually beyond adequate. One that is very comfortable, very secure for me. Now, I know a lot of people, when they hear me say this, they say, oh yeah, it's all about you. You know, isn't that awful selfish? No, we're talking about an individual going out and living off the raw land as a hunter-gatherer. Now, if there's two of you, now everything you do has to be, it's about us. It's about the two of us. There's always got to be that mindset that everything I do has to have a positive gain in supporting my continued life in the outdoors. So, and if you don't have the mindset that I love it out here, this is my life, this is what I love to do, I love it out here, this is great, this is what I do, this is my occupation, I love doing this, and I love nature, I love being out here. If you have that mindset and that's really where you are, you will succeed. You'll actually thrive in the outdoors because that's where you want to be. That's where you love to be. And you have the skill set and the knowledge. Knowledge is a big thing, and that goes to the mindset. You have a sound mindset if you've got a good knowledge base. So learn everything you can before you put yourself into that situation, full blown, and your mind relaxes because you have the knowledge necessary to succeed. You have the skill sets, you've gone out and practiced them. You know, because of that knowledge, what you need to do to live and thrive as a hunter-gatherer off the land. So there you go. There's a bunch of issues to take into mind and consider before you jump off that beaten trail into the great outdoors and try to live off the land. We want you all to be safe out there. So learn as much as you can. Go out and practice it, get your hands dirty, learn those skill sets. Yeah, and get brave. Get out there and practice. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. And go out there and try it out. 2 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks. Go out there and actually expose yourself to the rigors of living off the land. And make sure to practice all those bushcraft skill sets. And I really want to encourage, get out there and watch people's videos. Get a good subscriber list of all the bushcrafters you can out there. And you might think, well, okay, I watched a couple videos on using a bow drill, so I don't have to watch that anymore. I would beg to differ. I've probably watched over 40 bow drill videos, at least 40. You should watch them all, because some of them are done better than others. Some of them have pointers that pertain to where you live. Some of them really concentrate on how to use that primitive skill in the worst conditions. Some of them show you how to use that primitive skill in the best of conditions. So go out there and check out everybody's videos on these topics. I know it's a lot to do, but that feeds your knowledge base. And when you're going out there and you're learning these things for the first time, getting your hands dirty, it does not hurt to have a lot of knowledge base going on. A lot of those videos can give you the, well, why didn't that work before you even fail? So instead of doing it and going, now, why didn't that work? You might do it and go, oh, I know why that didn't work. I remember that video I watched. So yeah, go out there, check everybody's videos out, and get them as much knowledge as you can. And all I can say is, get out there, practice, enjoy the outdoors, do it safely. And this is Stein North. Till the next video, you all have a nice day. Bye bye.